Hi everyone, I'm Mandee Mintz, and today I'm going to talk to you about my paper, which seeks to compare and contrast the cognitive instructional design principles used to construct the Library of Congress learning page against a modern instructional design model that incorporates principles from behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructionist views. Now, just to give you the educational context of this paper, in 1996, the Library of Congress developed the Learning Page, which is a component of the National Digital Library, in response to a digital learning initiative termed American Memory, which sought to digitize rare and unique American primary source records from its collection. During the 5-year pilot program, LC identified students and teachers primarily from the K-12 secondary education settings accessed American Memory for primary sources in response to new Common Core standards. So they really wanted to enhance this initiative and actually provide them, in addition to the primary sources, lesson plans that they can use to actually promote developing students' world knowledge and fostering students' critical learning skills. So since inception, which was back in 1996, the site has maintained its original framework, which is based solely on cognitive instructional design principles and hypermedia guidelines designed by Malcolm Fleming. So my interest in this was, for the past 20 years, this original framework has prevailed. It has been maintained, and I was concerned as to why the Library of Congress, America's library, didn't seek to maybe revamp this instructional design model and actually incorporate all dominant theories and strategies, especially in response to contemporary views regarding human cognition. So what I wanted to do initially was I wanted to accurately assess the Library of Congress Learning Page's limitations imposed by maintaining this antiquated instructional design framework, and actually see if I can prescribe a solution that actually selects principles and conceptions that holds the most value for this educational situation. So one of the first things I did was I examined the original instructional design framework, and I wanted to capture what it was, basically what their limitations were. So one of the first things I identified was that it is rooted in situative cognitive theory and presented specifically and solely from a learner-centered approach. So what it really did automatically from the get-go was it limited itself to a learner-centered approach. And while learner-centered approach is important, I think what it did was it failed to consider other perspectives, which include knowledge-centered, community-centered, and assessment-centered. And it really failed to capture the potential that these varying perspectives have on mutually influencing each other and the potential to accelerate learning. So one of the first things I identified was that in addition to its learner-centered approach, it really needed to foster and develop all 4 perspectives so that they can actually accelerate learning. Now, the next thing I identified was that it did not consider any behaviorist tools, any behaviorist principles, and it failed to consider any constructivist tools. Now, while this may not seem like a problem on the outside, especially if your perspective is particularly from a cognitivist or a behaviorist or a solely constructivist view. But I think, especially in today's day and age, we really need to harness all of the benefits that the different principles and different theories has, and actually incorporate them into a modern instructional design that really balances all the principles and really truly enhances learning. So one of the first limitations that I noticed was that, you know, it didn't, like I said, it didn't consider behavior strategies. And behavior strategies are ideal for strengthening stimulus response associations. They are proven most reliable when they're defining discriminations, developing generalizations, and really making associations and chaining. So, you know, one of the biggest limitations I saw with the learning page was it really failed to capture these important strategies. And one of the fundamental precepts to the lesson plans was developing those concepts, you know, concepts such as, you know, separate but equal, you know, segregation, things like, you know, having a basic knowledge in civil rights. You know, you really needed to understand those basics in order to move on to more complex learning skills, or really to develop, you know, those complex learning skills. So, you know, while cognitivist strategies are ideal in developing students' critical and complex learning skills, such as problem solving, reasoning, information, they really failed to consider, you know, developing those initial steps in our students. So the next thing I identified was that, you know, the Library of Congress learning page really lacked any real-world association to that information. It didn't foster any interaction with the knowledge it presented. You know, so students can develop, you know, those direct experiences, you know, co-construct knowledge with that reality. Constructive tools really excel in that arena because they help students learn by equating learning, you know, to direct experience and its interaction between these two variables that really helps create the knowledge. And one of its limitations was it failed to use any type of constructivist type of tools. I was you know, specifically looking at multiple lesson plans, and, you know, like I said, they had some really great, solid cognitivist tools that they employed in their lesson plans. You know, when there was opportunities for these constructivist tools, particularly in activities, you know, they really, you know, were, you know, they really failed to consider utilizing those. For instance, you know, one of the biggest things I saw was that, you know, in one lesson plan called the Constitution, it was drafting a more perfect union. You know, there was points where, you know, the activities, you know, concentrated on, you know, developing and analyzing and understanding of, you know, why we drafted the Constitution. And I thought that was an excellent opportunity where the Library of Congress learning page could have incorporated some constructivist tools to really embrace, you know, the power and potential of these primary sources. You know, what they could have done was, instead of analyzing why, you know, people, you know, or why our founding fathers drafted the Constitution the way they did, they could have asked the students actually become a founding member and really live out, you know, maybe have them, you know, develop their own Constitution, you know, draft their own Constitution, and really live out that perspective, you know, offering that direct experience with that knowledge, and really establishing their relationship and that reality to the world. So after everything is said and done, I really believe that, you know, to truly embrace, you know, the power and potential of these primary sources offered by the Library of Congress learning page, we really need to develop these strategies that incorporate all benefits of, you know, behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism into the modern instructional design. Because as we know, you know, human cognition is complex, and if we don't integrate these variants of principles, we really fail to effectively establish a holistic learning environment that really drives and broadens deeper understanding of their environment. So I hope you enjoy my paper and have a great day. Bye now.